We've reached a point in human civilization at the turning point when the collapse happens that the new rebirth's going to begin. So it's like a wave that breaks both ways. You're either going to get more enlightened and more awake and more empowered and ride the wave like a surfer, or you're going to get more dumbed down, more corrupt, and more evil.
The world's going to Hades in a handbasket, and we're going to debate the next 3 weeks, I'm told, gay marriage, a flag amendment, and God only knows what else. I can't believe the American people can't see through this. We already have a law, the Defense of Marriage Act, where we've all voted, not where I voted and others said, look, marriage is between a man and a woman, and states must respect that.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, as always, joined by Joe Resinello. And once more, dear brothers and sisters, let us go into the breach. Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo and Joe Resinello. And once more, dear brothers and sisters, let us go into the breach. Happy New Year to everybody. Hey, Joe, let me ask you a question. Did you make New Year's resolutions? I'm just saying that only because I gave that up. I don't know how long. It's one of the most idiotic things, Joe, that I could think of is a New Year's resolution. If you ain't going to do it on December 1st, you ain't going to do it on January 1st. And even if you say you think you might, it's going to last about a week. Okay. I know I might be harsh, and some people listening to us say, well, that's not fair. Why are you saying that? New Year's resolutions are good. We should make a resolution every day when we wake up that we're going to try to do whatever we can, both in our own lives and in the culture and in society, to try to change some of the nonsense that's going on out there. Welcome, everyone. You're listening to the Frontline with Joe and Joe on the Crusade channel, always on air and always online at crusadechannel.com, the last live radio station standing. Remember, wherever you see Joe and I, on social media in particular, Frontline with Joe and Joe on YouTube, and at with Joe and Joe on Twitter. Now, the Twitter, at least as far as Joe and I are concerned, might be a bit more of an open platform. We're hoping for the best when it comes to what Elon Musk has in store for Twitter, and we could build up our audience there. So we're going to take advantage of that, or at least try to, at with Joe and Joe, and you can follow us on there. Joe, this is going to be a very, how could I put this, lively conversation. Okay, I want to start, Joe. Let me preface this. I have listened on and off to Alex Jones over the years. He starts talking about UFOs. I got to admit, I'm kind of zoning out a little bit. The guy's not a lunatic, and I know the media wants to portray him as one. I don't think he's a hater. And everybody's a hater. You and me are haters. So if Alex Jones is a hater, so is Joe Resinello and Joe Pasillo. So we have to deal with that. There's a lot of things that Alex Jones says that are spot on. Now, on a very, how should I put this? A very specific level, we might not agree with him on everything, or maybe even most things, Joe Resinello. But I will say this. We're going to play a clip where I think he's spot on in this regard, and this is where, when we come back from the clip, Joe, I'm going to want I want you to chime in immediately, okay? Alex Jones is saying, here's one side or the other. That's the way I'm taking it, okay? One side or the other. And if you think you're going to skirt the middle, I'm sorry. Not going to happen. Let's roll the clip of Alex Jones. By the way, no shirt on. Hairy-chested, okay, at his kitchen table. And Joe, by the way, I love it because he's at his kitchen table. And you and I have always described our show the same way. This is kitchen table discussion, man. And I respect him for this video. I want to play the video, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it.
We've reached a point in human civilization at the turning point when the collapse happens that the new rebirth's going to begin. So it's like a wave that breaks both ways. You're either going to get more enlightened and more awake and more empowered and ride the wave like a surfer, or you're going to get more dumbed down, more corrupt, more evil. And so people are now being divided, and that division's always been there, but now it's going to become absolutely accelerated and pronounced or highlighted. And so those of us that are awake are going to get more awake and more purified and more understanding And those that aren't are going to fall deeper into delusion. It's the grand delusion.
And there's no in between?
There's no in between. It's cutting now. And there's no in between.
Joe Rossinello, I want to throw this over to you. Jesus said, and we know this, okay? I did not come to bring peace on earth. I came with a sword. And what does a sword do? The sword cuts. The sword separates. Now, people think that's very harsh of Jesus to actually use those images and stuff. But isn't that where we're coming to? Isn't that really where, now Alex Jones might not be going there, but certainly we are. And he used, Joe, certain words that we would use. We have to become more purified. I heard him say that. He said more purified. Okay. That's just one example. I think he's right. I think he's actually very spot on in his analysis. You're not sitting on the fence. If you're sitting on the fence, you might even be worse than those people who are going to get devoured on the other side. So, Joe, I want to throw it over to you because I think he was making a lot of sense right there.
First of all, he's got to put his shirt on, dude.
See,
this is the problem with Alex Jones. He like cuts his own throat. Like I've seen him on what's his face? Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan's had him on a couple times. And he's always like, Alex, you need someone to reel you in a little bit. Like you're doing an interview at your kitchen table and you look like a woolly mammoth, dude. You got to put your shirt on.
Let me ask you this. That's
the first thing I'm going to say.
Do you think, and Joe, I'm being serious. I know, no, listen, Joe, in my heart, I agree with you. Okay. But then again, I'm not as hairy as Alex Jones, but if I took off my shirt, I'm just as fat. Okay.
I mean, it's just like Alex.
But I think what he was doing, and again, Alex Jones is a bit of a showman. Okay. Let's not forget about that. Okay. And I think that what he was doing I think he was showing a little bit of a vulnerability where he was kind of saying, hey, listen, all you do, and listen, Joe, his voice, when he gets out there, he's reaching hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. Let's not take that away from him. He knew when he took his shirt off, there was about 1 million people in this world that are going to see him with his shirt off. Okay. But I think that he was trying to show maybe a little bit of vulnerability, a little bit of, listen, I know all my court proceedings and my shows and the production value and everything else. Here's what I'm telling you, everybody out there. This is me sitting at my kitchen table with no shirt on. Yeah, probably having a cup of coffee, whatever. The way we would wake up in the morning, Joe, when there's nobody around. All right. You don't have your shirt on. You're having a cup of coffee. You're at the kitchen table. But what he said in that milieu that he created there, I think was absolutely, I thought that was absolutely spot on because I thought he was being very, very real. And of course, what I think he's saying is absolutely true as far as you're going to have to choose sides. There is no in the middle nonsense anymore.
Well, I read something recently by Father John Hardin, who is a very solid Jesuit, who put together a Catholic dictionary. If anyone's interested in it, it's referenced a lot to this very day. Anyway, he said basically, if you're Catholic, only the serious Catholics are going to survive this time. And he basically said that 3-4 decades ago. I absolutely believe that. The lukewarm will be burned away because there's going to be consequences to believing and to acting in accordance with your faith. Soon. They're already here. It's going to get a little bit more ramped up. I'm not going to say we're going to have to go underground, but you're going to have to keep certain things to yourself. You kind of have to do that already, but there may be consequences. But as far as the population, I mean, our country's become tribal. I mean, you see that with let's look at Fetterman. I just saw his Senate picture. Dude, he looks like he's like going to Jiffy Lube to change his like oil. Right. Either something's
no. He's the Joe, real quick. He's the guy at Jiffy Lube
selling you the oil. And I mean, like, he won. I'm not saying Dr. Oz was the greatest candidate. I get it. He wasn't from Pennsylvania. I get it. But this guy, he's handicapped, number one, and his presentation's horrible.
Right.
You don't have to debate anymore. It's pure tribal politics. I think that's the new precedent. I don't expect presidential debates anymore. There'll be none. Even if Trump's not in it, say it's DeSantis. Say it's what's her face from Hawaii. I'm just Tulsi Gabbard.
Tulsi Gabbard.
Just say. I'm just, who am I? I don't know what's going to happen in 2 years.
Right. We're not political pundits. I don't know
There's
what the
not
hell's
going
gonna
to be
happen.
debates because it's
Right.
tribal. You don't have to debate anymore, and they know it.
But one of
That's
the tribes is able to do that because that tribe has the media on their side. But go
Well,
ahead, Joe.
true. But I'm just talking about even like Republicans, they just vote too a certain way. There's that's just the way it sadly is. And that's a bad thing. I'm going to tell you that right now. I mean, you could think about this in 2 years, and I don't wish him death by no means. Trust me. Joe Biden's in bad shape. He was in bad shape 2 years ago. Joe Biden could die. If he
I'm actually
did,
quite surprised. I'm actually quite surprised that he's still around. I'm
and my
not going to
point
lie.
is he's
Again,
not
I'm
in
with
good
you.
shape.
What's that?
But he's not in good shape. But my
No.
point is, say Gavin Newsom was to jump in his spot. Gavin Newsom destroyed California. It's unarguable. I read something, 500,000 people have left California, I believe,
Yeah.
in 1 year. If
They
my
lost a couple
numbers
of,
are
they
wrong,
lost a
fact
couple
checkers
of
out there,
congressional
correct
seats.
me.
Joe, they lost a couple of congressional seats too because of the.
There you
Joe,
go.
let me ask you a question. Let's take a deep dive. Let's take a little bit of a dive into history, if that's okay with you, at the front line with Joe and Joe on the Crusade channel. People blast. I consider myself to be. I am not an expert on Roman history, but I know more than most about human history, about Roman history. Okay, Julius Caesar. Okay, he got up there, and an official office. There was an official office under the Constitution, which was the dictator's office. That means the Senate of Rome can give one person dictator's powers for 5 years. They did it a couple times before Caesar. They did it with Sulla. Okay, Sulla, after 5 years, had dictator's power. He gave the power back. Caesar. Now, this is not. I have a point here, Joe Resinello. And I'm going to throw it over to you when I'm done. Caesar decided that they decided to give Caesar dictator's powers because it was still in the midst of the Civil War. Okay. He, at one point, decided that he was going to take dictator's powers, which was a legitimate power under the Constitution, but he was going to take dictator's powers for life. Okay. He became a tyrant. Now, here's my question that I want to throw over to you. Okay. Because we're dealing with tyranny here, the tyranny of one party. You mentioned Gavin Newsom. Now, last time I checked, term limits for presidents was done away with after FDR, and this is where I'm going with this. You don't think that a young Democrat radical like a Gavin Newsom comes in, and the same way that the Senate gave Caesar the power to have dictators' powers for life is the same way they'll do it in the future here in America? My point is that even Karl Marx said, history repeats itself. The first time it's tragedy, the second time it's farce. Okay? And he was right about that. My point to you is this. You don't think America's going down the same road, Joe? If you get one of a guy like Gavin Newsom or somebody like that, they'll turn around, they'll do away with term limits for the president. And they'll, like if you had a Barack Obama or somebody like him, they'll have him in power for God knows how long. And I don't think I'm wrong about that.
It could happen. I mean, anything could happen. I mean, clearly after the pandemic, we had Russell Berman from Stanford University on. He wrote an article about basically the government overstepping their grounds in power as a result of the pandemic, giving an excuse. And he cited history. Lincoln basically did away with habeas corpus due to the Civil War. I mean, could it happen? Anything could happen. We're going down a bad road. The only reason why I bring up Gavin Newsom to play into the lines of what Alex Jones said is no one should vote for Gavin Newsom. Not a Democrat, because he did a bad job. Gavin Newsom should have lost to Larry Elder. He did a bad job.
Right.
Like people are fleeing California. You look at Twitter. Some of the like the shots on the side of the road. It's third world.
Right.
Sacramento, San Francisco, LA. It's third world. Listen, you own it. Yet here he is. He's their guy.
But
I
isn't
mean,
that what
and he'll
Alex?
get
Wait.
tons of votes.
You just said something. You used 3 words here at the front line with Joe and Joe, Joe Pasillo and Joe Rossinello on the Crusade Show. You used 3 words, Joe, that nobody wants to hear. You own it. That's the line of demarcation. That's where you have to say, no. You can't play this middle bull crap. You're not playing some sort of middle. Joe, the difference between you and me and our enemies, we admit, okay, that we're on one side, solidly, by the way, on one side. Why? Because what I mentioned earlier. Because when you have a sword, the sword produces 2 sides, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 9, not 10, not 150,000, like the amount of genders we have right now. 2 sides. When the sword splits, we're on one side. And I'll tell you what, Joe, when I get somebody who can't stand people like you and me, at least I know what I'm dealing with. With lukewarm people, I go like this. And that's what Alex Jones is talking about. He's going, you're not going to go right down the middle of that wave. That wave is either going to overwhelm you, in which case you're going down, okay? Or you're going to ride that wave, because that, I think, is where he's going with this, by the way, and I want your opinion on this. The wave, Joe, even though the left and the media and everything else deny this, the wave is in the direction of the right. Not right politically. I mean, the right is in the good and the true. That's what I mean. Because I think people are reacting. And as they react, I think that wave is going to grow and grow and grow, because you cannot suppress truth. You and I know at this show, we're Roman Catholic. We know the truth is Jesus Christ. You're not going to suppress it. I think that's where he's going. If you think you're on the fence, you're going to get overwhelmed on that side. And what you need to do is get yourself on, again, not the political right, on the right, meaning right and wrong of things. And you'll be able to ride that wave and surf that wave. I think that's where he was going. I'm not, I don't know what's in his heart. I don't know. I'm going by what he said. And again, I'm very impressed with the fact that he did it in not a kind of like a theatrical. It's just a guy sitting at his kitchen table. I was very impressed with that, Joe.
Well, here's the thing. The wave, I don't view the wave politically, because, to be honest with you, if Donald Trump just came out on Truth Social that he, like, on his abortion position.
Joe, please talk about that.
But my
please
point
talk
is
about that.
that I am not a Republican. I don't even like the word conservative. I am a Catholic. And if he's talking about that, to a degree, I think he is. I mean, he's not Catholic, and we're going to disagree theologically on a lot of social issues. Myself and Alex Jones would agree. But in terms of politically speaking, like, to be honest with you, the Republicans, very soon, it's going to be like Europe. 15-week abortion in every state,
Right.
Joe. Mississippi, Wyoming, North Dakota. Same-sex marriage.
And who just told
state.
you that? And who just told you that? Donald Trump told you that.
Dude,
see, when he was president,
to be honest with you, I said it a year ago. It's going to happen.
I'm talking about from again, if you're going to tell me, if you're going to put up a Democrat candidate in 2024 and a Republican, and that Republican is Donald Trump, I'm going to say straight up, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump. But I will tell you this, I held my nose when I voted for Mitt Romney. I held my nose when I voted for George Bush, okay? And bottom line is, I will hold my nose and vote for Donald Trump, only because I know that at least less babies will die under a Donald Trump than, let's say, for argument's sake, under whoever he runs against. But not for nothing. He really just showed. See, again, it ties into what Alex Jones was saying. Donald Trump is taking the Ann Coulter view, and Ann Coulter is a Republican. Ann Coulter would never come on our show, okay? Because Ann Coulter said a few years ago, she said straight up, Republicans need to learn rape and incest, rape and incest, rape and incest. What does she want with abortion? A political solution. What did Donald Trump just say?
Well, it's a winner, Joe.
What's that, Joe?
It's a winner. That's a winner.
Oh no,
You see,
politically, you're right.
we are strangers in a strange land. Like, if you are an Orthodox Jew, if you are Catholic that embraces Orthodoxy, dude, our vote doesn't count. There's
Doesn't
not
count.
enough of us. We are strangers in a strange land. We are an outlier. If you are trying to court the vote, that is exactly where you have to be. And 15 weeks is even better. If you're a political strategist, that doesn't comport with me. And I got news for you. If there is a Republican candidate that stands on that, I will write somebody in. I will not. I am then out of the political system. I will vote. I will write somebody in, because as a Catholic, you cannot support that. You see, there is no political solution. The line that's coming down, and this is where I agree with them, it is basically right and wrong as defined by God, not defined by the political system. The political system is a reflection of a corrupt people.
Right.
And politicians want power. All they do is mirror the people they represent. And the people they represent are not grounded in God or in truth, most of them. So, yes, is a line being like drawn down like that? But I don't think it's 50-50. The country, again, we are outliers. Joe, we will never have a politician that comports perfectly with what the truth says, as in the Catholic truth. Ever, never. And if they did, they would not, to use your language, be elected dog catcher. They wouldn't win one state, not one. If you said as a Catholic, I'm not for a contraception, I'm for abolition on abortion, I'm for traditional marriage.
Let me ask you a question.
Not one
Joe
state.
Rosanella. No, I agree. I'm not just saying that. I do agree with you. At the front line with Joe and Joe on the Crusade channel, always on air and always online at crusadechannel.com. Remember, where you see Joe and I on social media, please like what we do, subscribe, share, particularly on YouTube, the front line with Joe and Joe, and on Twitter, as long as Twitter is going to hopefully ostensibly be a open platform, at with Joe and Joe, at with Joe and Joe. Follow us there. Joe, let me ask you a question about lukewarmness. Take a lukewarm person who says they love freedom, an American. Joe, follow me here. Indulge me for a second, okay? I watched a video of a woman. She's the head of UK March for Life. She's standing on the street, okay? The cops come up. She's in front of an abortion clinic. She's not saying a word. She's by herself, okay? She's by herself. She, again, not saying a word. And the cops come up to her. And they say to her, "What are you doing?" And she says, "I'm standing here in front of this abortion clinic." And they say, "Well, what are you doing? Are you saying?" "No, I'm not saying anything. I'm just actually being silent." She said, "I think I'm praying in my head, but silently." They arrested her. Now, here's my question. To all those lukewarm people, and this gets back to what Alex Jones was saying, and all those people who say, "Well, I rape and incest, and let's just have laws that just allow all this nonsense to happen." I would ask you this. Do you think the people you are willing to vote for in America are not going to do that same thing here that they did to this woman? Do you agree? Here's my question again, Joe, to the lukewarm out there. Do you agree with that?
They don't care.
Do you agree with that those cops should have arrested that one? Now, you know what they would say. No, I don't think so. But those are the people you are willing to give power to. And I'm going to shut up and give it to you, Joe.
Because they don't live chaste lives. Like, here's the thing. The abortion question is attacked in the wrong way. In order to be an abolitionist in abortion, that means that you don't have sex before you get married. That means within the marriage covenant, you don't contracept. Do you know how small the number that is in America, Joe? That's under 5% of the population.
No, but my
in
larger
America.
question, again, I know where you're going. I'm not trying to cut you off. But my larger question is on the political level. I just want to keep it there for a second because I really want your opinion. Those people who you are describing, by the way, I would ask them straight up. Do you agree with that?
I don't think they care. Because most people don't care about anything.
And they would say, "I don't care."
And
arrest that woman. Go arrest that woman, and or whether she gets arrested or not. I think I agree with you on that. They don't give a crap.
They don't care. I'm going to be honest with you. They think she's nuts. Why are you there? Why do you care? I was in Montclair protesting in front of abortion clinic. One guy drives by. What? Get a life. That was the statement. Get a life.
Right.
Like in all honesty, they don't care because again, Joe, you have to be deeply rooted in God to be like, I'm not saying, and I'm not a saint, but in order to take that position, that means you're not having sex before marriage, you're open to life in marriage, and most people don't agree with that. America is gone on that front,
Well,
and people don't
then I
care.
think that what I think, and I'm Joe, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but then I think that's what you're saying is because of how they personally view things, they don't give a crap whether or not that woman gets arrested. But the thing is, I can't wait for it to be you, is what I would tell those people. I can't wait for it to be something you care about. And the
Well, then
cops
they'll
come up to you
care.
and they want to know what's in your head, even on
Then they'll
top of it.
care. I mean, Joe, you got to remember in the 50s, I think it was the 50s, Hoover arrested, it was flipped. Hoover arrested communists. That went on for 10 years. People got blackballed. They lost their careers. Now it's the opposite that's happened. Did the people on the right care? No, they didn't. Absolutely not. They didn't care. Should they have? Absolutely. Listen, I don't have to agree with you, but you have a right to live the way you want outside of hurting people,
Right.
outside of breaking the law. If you want to do what that's your business, they didn't care. And it's the same with me. If I got arrested because I believed in traditional marriage, carted off, handcuffed, there's many people in America that say, good for him. I don't care.
Right.
And this is because they're not thinking. I'll be truthful with you. Donald Trump, what happened in his house, that was a disgrace. That was an absolute disgrace. Legally speaking, whether you like him or not, you should not have been for what just took place. Going into his house, to be honest with you, that was a disgrace.
No,
But
Joe,
people are
listen.
twisted.
Well,
And
no,
this is
people
why the country's in trouble.
Well, let's talk about Twisted. Let's talk about Twisted. Let's keep the conversation going at the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo and Joe Rossinello. And we are way in the breach on the Crusade channel, always on air and always online at crusadechannel.com. Let's talk about Twisted. Now, we have a guy. He's a little bit of a paisan. Actually, he's not a little bit of a paisan. He actually is our paisan. I believe he's from Staten Island, Vic DiBettito. Okay. And guess what? He's like, he points out 27% of the American people. Well, how about this? How about I let him tell you, and then we'll come back and talk about exactly what it is that Joe people seem to care about. Let's roll the clip of Vic DiBettito.
Very ticked off, Vic, here. You know what ticks me off? Here's the latest story that I heard in this crazy world that we live in. They want Santa Claus to be either female or neutral gender. You heard right. 27% of Americans want Santa Claus to be either female or neutral gender, whatever the fuck neutral is, because he's got to have some kind of sex. I mean, first of all, let me give you a little history. Santa Claus was based on Saint Nicholas, who lived between 270 and 370 something AD. He was a man that he secretly gave gifts to children.
Now, we didn't play the whole clip, okay? But Vic actually alludes to the vein popping out of his head.
Yeah, he
and
does
I want to
not.
let everybody hear it at the front line with Joe and Joe. No, I did not get that from Vic DiBettito. But he makes a pretty good point. 27%, Joe Rossinello, of the American people don't care if you neuter. I guess that is that the word? If you neuter Santa Claus to either make him sexually neutral, or what would you call it? Not the communist
Asexual.
language that they use, non-binary, or make Santa Claus a female. I think is now Vic's larger point is 27% of the American people actually agree with that. And now I would encourage you all to go out there and watch a video. We're not going to play the whole video. And the reason why is now we love Vic, and Joe and I are not Puritans, and we use foul language at times, but we try not to, particularly in our personal lives, but certainly not on this show. Vic drops a few F-bombs, okay? And if you could deal with that, I would encourage you to watch the video. But Joe, he's not for nothing. He's spot on. How about 0.27%, not 27%, 0.27% of the American people should say, please stop. Please. Santa Claus, really? Santa Claus, is not a male. There's not a Mrs. Claus. And he went through this whole thing. And Vic's a comedian too, by the way. He doesn't have just a large presence on social media. He's also a comedian. He's known in comedian circles. He's a very, very funny guy. Okay. He's not wrong because what he's really asking, and I'm going to hand it over to you, Joe, is 27% of the American people say it's okay to change the gender of Santa Claus. And what he's asking is, are we all insane right now?
Yes.
And I said, what's that?
The answer is yes. I mean, that's crazy.
I
mean, straight up. But here's the thing. It's just going along the line. Now, he broke it down. Who is St. Nicholas? Many people probably don't know that.
No, they don't know
what
that.
he said was
Right,
100%
exactly.
right. But think about the whole idea of Santa Claus, because even the St. Nicholas thing got twisted. That's where it comes from. Santa Claus is taking the place. People focusing on Christmas is about the birth of Christ. And yet people focus on Santa Claus.
Right.
That is a twist. Easter is not about the Easter bunny. It's about the resurrection of Christ. That is a twist.
Right.
I mean, basically what that is society is taking your gaze off of what it is. Now, taking it to another level, obviously, Santa Claus is a man. He's a man. He has a beard, a white beard. If there's a woman that has a white beard that's 6 inches off her face, I'm staying away from her. As a general rule. And I'm going to tell my kids to do the same. And I don't think that makes me bad. But listen, it just shows you, goes along with what I said. Are you expecting a population that thinks that, and I take his word for it, 27%, I didn't look into it myself, is going to vote for the right person that's going to lead the country? In the book, Return to Order, and I recommend all people read it, John Horvath, great book, talks about where problems come from, where our problems came from, and some possible ideas for solutions. He talks about, there's a chapter in that book about politicians that were once heroes, like someone that did something, like, for instance, I'll just use a person, Roger Staubach. Roger Staubach went to the Naval Academy. He was an all-American guy. He was a phenomenal football player, defers going professionally to fight in Vietnam, comes back, does phenomenally in the pros, and then he succeeds in business. He's a daily communicant, has a family. You see, that's a guy.
All right, that's
the president.
What you just described. And again, and this comes from somebody who's a Dallas Cowboy hater.
No,
by
I'm
the
just
way.
picking them out of the blue.
I agree. When people say, well, all the things that you Christians try to live up to, it's all unattainable. You can't really do that. It's all unrealistic. I remember you first telling me this story because I didn't know all that about Roger Staubach. I did not. I knew he went to the Navy. Okay, I knew that. Okay, and I knew he was definitely.
I saw a documentary on his life. It's impressive.
He absolutely not only aspires to that Christian level of excellence in every aspect of his life, he achieved it.
100%. And this is the type of guy who should be a politician. After achieving that, he's basically like, listen, I have the skill set. I have a high level of integrity, but that's not where we're at. And you're expecting, and this is why I say, dude, don't expect the politician to solve
Joe
our problems.
Resinello, Nancy Pelosi just spent her last day after how many years as Speaker of the House of Representatives of the United States of America. If you want to see the level to which we have fallen, why don't you swish that idea around in your mouth like a fine wine? Nancy Pelosi, who's one of the dumbest people. Now, Joe, I'm sorry. I know you want me to be more charitable, but I am speaking the truth here. I'm not just attacking her. She's dumb. You listen to what she says. She's dumb. Okay. You listen to Joe Biden before the dementia for the last 30, 40 years of his life in political office. Okay. He's a dumb man. They don't know how to connect dots. They don't know how to reason. What they know is they know political power. I'll give them that. They know how to use political power. I'll give them that. They know how to get themselves elected. I'll give them that. These are not smart people. Joe Biden became a senator when I was 5 years old. I'm 55 years old. Okay. That means he was a senator for over 40 years. Okay. When you consider how long he's been, whatever, president. Okay. How long he was a senator up until the time he became vice president under Barack Obama. Joe, this is the level to which we have fallen.
No, but this is why,
when
like
you
I
look
said,
at the politicians, you could look at ancient Rome. Again, I'm going to harken back to ancient Rome. When you look at, let's just say, a Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar, again, he gave himself power. He gave himself dictator's powers for life. Julius Caesar was not a dumb man. Julius Caesar was not a stupid man who just willy-nilly did this, that, or the other thing. He was actually very smart. Probably got him killed, okay? And there's a lot of things you could talk about. When you look at Augustus Caesar, he was very smart. He knew how to build an empire, and he went ahead and did it. Again, we're not judging him as from a Catholic lens. We're judging him from a historical lens. Augustus Caesar was a very smart man. When you get towards the end of the empire, Joe, you know what you see? A bunch of morons running the empire. And you know what we have at the end of the American empire, as E. Michael Jones would say? We have a bunch of morons running the show. And that includes Republicans, by the way.
oh, there's
Just
no
so everybody
doubt.
out there understands, we're not. Donald Trump, Joe Rossinello just turned around and said, and told you, he blames conservative pro-life people who don't know how to use the words rape and incest for the reason why we lost the midterm elections. That's where we're at right now. Joe Rossinello.
Well, like I said, that's why we're not going to get that solution. And here's another thing. The establishment, the elites in both parties, the uniparty, will not allow somebody like a Roger Staubach. They won't allow it because, to be honest with you, the people that run everything don't live by that creed, Joe. The country is upside down. It's upside down outside of a miracle where there is some type of revival of morality and religion. It's over, dude. It's just going to accelerate. It's going to accelerate the insanity, the clown world, that Santa Claus, 27% of people, 1 in 4 think Santa Claus should not be a man or a woman. Unisex Santa Claus. Okay.
As
whatever.
though that's some sort of an important issue. But Joe, listen, you just hit the nail on the head at the front line with Joe and Joe on the Crusade channel, always on air and always online at crusadechannel.com. You just made the point, and this is the larger point, is that when you look at the mistake that conservatives are making, is that conservatives think that there's a political solution to our problems. And we brought it up. I forgot if it was last week or the week before. We brought up Giorgia Meloni in Italy. Now, she is a politician. She is the prime minister of Italy. She's running right now a coalition government in Italy. But we played the clip of what she said. Joe, what she said was she was not putting out a political agenda. She was putting out a cultural agenda. She got out there and she did what American conservatives should be doing. She said, she goes, I can't call myself a Christian, a woman, a mother. Instead, I have to be all these things that you tell me I have to be. You want me to be a number. See, she's fighting a culture where she gets it, is my larger point. She gets it and American conservatives don't, because American conservatives are still trying to pass laws that say that we're going to protect capitalism and we're going to protect babies in the womb, except on rape and incest. And they think that that's the solution. They're not going to say a damn thing about homosexuality. They're not going to say a damn thing about gay marriage. In fact, as you pointed out on this show 1,000,000 times, okay? No, they're going to embrace that. They're going to tell you, they're going to tell me, they're going to tell Mike Church, they're going to tell all the good people out there who are watching us, all the good people out there at the Crusade channel, if you want political power, you guys, you Catholics, okay, you're going to have to embrace all this stuff. And you know what I say? Now I'm in the Joe Rossinello camp. Yes, I'm going to fulfill my obligation to vote. And I'm going to go to the voting booth, give me the pen, and I'm writing in Jesus,
Well,
Mary,
that's right.
and Joseph. And
That's
I
right.
voted.
And then you're
I
out.
voted.
I
If,
mean,
you,
and
if they're
that's
not on
like,
the ballot, I don't care. I voted
that's
for them.
100% correct, because ultimately my judge isn't going to be the president. It's going to be Christ. I have to comport my life to him because I'm a Catholic. And that's the most important thing. Like, listen, this is what Alex Jones, in my view, is talking. The line is cutting through the society, and it's but it's not a political line, because the political line is going to drift with the culture, and the culture's rancid, and it's getting worse. And here's another thing: all of these ideas are going to bear bad fruit. Mark my words. Save this clip. All of these ideas are going to bear bad fruit. It's a fact. It's mathematically sound. It's a fact. 30 years from now, we are going to have such a broken population. It's already broken.
I was going to say it's already broken.
It's going to be exponentially worse. Exponentially worse. Because here's the deal. All of these things that we're talking about affects the family unit. And I don't care whether you are sweeping the street or you're a brain surgeon. You come from a family. And people who come from dysfunctional families bear wounds, and they're deep, and it affects them in their life. That doesn't mean all families are perfect. Absolutely not. But I'm going to tell you right now, marriage between a man and a woman, where God is the center of that marriage, with all the faults and foibles that come with being a man and a woman, raising children in a stable, loving environment equals healthy kids 96% of the time.
Right. Remember something, though. Hollywood makes movies, and they always want to focus on the 4%.
Well,
But
that's
the fact
okay.
Is,
That's okay. But
and this is-
reality, there's reality. And I live it and I see it. I have eyes too. And I always say, look out your window, look on your street. How many kids are taking medication?
Oh, Joe,
How
let me
many
ask you a
kids
question.
are committing suicide?
Joe, let me ask you a question. Do you have to be a Christian to understand? Now, we always talk about on this show at the front line with Joe and Joe, we always talk about the natural law, okay? You know by nature what a family is, because God gave us that. No matter, I don't care if you're a pygmy in some island in the Pacific. I don't care if you're in Africa. I don't care if you're a European Christian. I don't care if you're a Muslim. I don't care if you're a Jew. I don't care. In all of human history, everybody knows the family is where it's at. Okay, that's what that. In fact, we didn't play that part of the clip. Okay, we didn't play of Vic DiBettito, where he was talking about Santa Claus. He goes, "You got Santa Claus, and you got Mrs. Claus, a man and a woman, and they produce little men and women, males and females." And that's now again, he was being Vic from Staten Island, but again, all comedy has its root in truth. And Vic was saying the truth. He goes, what do you think human beings know how to do? Human beings know families. Why? Because we're all born into one. Eventually, if you're a son, eventually you're going to be a father. Eventually, you're going to be a grandfather. Okay? Eventually, you're going to have your own kids and grandkids and everything else. Everybody knows that family is the way to go. All cultures, all cuts through all religion, because God made it that way. Even atheists know that, even though modern atheists have, like even atheists in the past haven't been as bad as modern atheists, who think that we should all just commit suicide. Richard Dawkins said that, by the way. He thinks that we should all just commit collective suicide so that the earth could go on. Well, I would like to tell Richard Dawkins, I was not created for the earth. The earth was created for me, Professor Dawkins. And whether or not you agree with that, it's true, because God did that. Okay. But that's really what it comes down to, Joe, is that they try to say, when you talk about family, you're coming from a political point of view. You're coming from a religious point of view. You're coming from a patriarchal point of view. You're all coming from all sorts of point of views, but they'll never admit you're coming from the correct point of view, which is the family. The family. That is, as you said, for all its foibles, for all its problems, has society, have human beings in all their reason and intelligence, and they know exactly how to they know how to uproot this patriarchy, Joe Ressa. Have you come up with something better? You think gay marriage is better? When you listen, we'll do a show on this, and when you want to break down, and we'll get taken down on YouTube if we ever tried to do that. When you talk about the abuses of young children, in marriages, so-called same-sex couples, same-sex two males that adopt children, they never want to talk about that. The same with females and the abuse of young girls. They never want to talk about. Have you done any better? Have you produced better human beings in your atheistic worldview, in your communistic worldview, in your Marxist worldview? You haven't created better human beings. In fact, I would argue you've created worse because you have no moral grounding because you don't believe in any kind of morality. Okay, I'll just shut my mouth after this, Joe. My family wasn't perfect. My mother and father and my siblings and myself, we weren't perfect. We were a family, but guess what? I can only imagine what I would have become without them. And I would have destroyed my life without them. That's anecdotal, I know, but yeah, the family. That's what it's all about, and that's why it's under attack. And you know who knows that better than anybody, Joe Rossinello? Catholics know that better than anybody. We know that better than anybody because Our Lady said that this was going to be the final battle between Satan and Jesus was going to be over marriage and the family, and that's what we're seeing.
Let's go to that next clip.
The world's going to Hades in a handbasket, and we're going to debate the next 3 weeks, I'm told, gay marriage, a flag amendment, and God only knows what else. I can't believe the American people can't see through this. We already have a law, the Defense of Marriage Act, where we've all voted, not where I voted and others said, look, marriage is between a man and a woman, and states must respect that.
Do you remember, or do you see, Joe Rossinello? And again, you and I have been going through this our whole lives, okay? When you get someone who's a true, because in our whole lives, what we've heard from the time we were kids is Ronald Reagan's a racist. That Papa Bush, George Bush Sr., was a racist. That W was a racist. McCain, for when he ran for president, at least, of course, he's a racist. And leave aside that, and we know Donald Trump is a racist. We know Mitt Romney. They're all racist. But yet, like in American history, when you get somebody who's truly a racist, and I'm bringing up Lyndon Johnson, okay? Johnson was a racist. That's what he was, okay? Anything he did was to keep black people back. And the black liberal establishment, will try to convince you differently. Lyndon Johnson was a stone cold racist and member of the Klan, okay? But yet somehow they will try to convince you, Joe Rossinello, but he changed. He changed after a while. After he was a senator from Texas, he became vice president under John F. Kennedy, and he changed, and he passed the Civil Rights Act. He was as much of a racist, and I would encourage anybody to go out there, first listen to Mike Church when he talks about this, and others like Dinesh D'Souza talk about Lyndon Johnson was a racist, but they'll say he changed. Joe Biden, when you play this clip that we just showed, people will say, yeah, but he changed. Joe Biden didn't change. Joe Biden didn't change. The politics changed. And Biden is as much of a politician now as he was then. He's not a man of conviction. He goes where the political wind says he needs to go. And we started this conversation talking about lukewarm people. We started this conversation tonight at the front line with Joe and Joe talking about Alex Jones, people who want to skirt the middle, not realizing you're going to go to one side or you're going to go to the other, but you're going to go to a side. Choice is yours, but you're going to have to do it. Joe Biden goes like this, Joe. He puts his finger up in the air, says, which way's the wind blowing? And in that interview, I think that was the late 90s or early 2000s, he was firmly against gay marriage, okay? Defended the Defense of Marriage Act, okay? By the way, so did the Clintons. So did Barack Obama. And then he miraculously changed. My larger point is, Joe, we're dealing with people who have no conviction whatsoever. Joe Biden is the poster boy of someone who has no conviction whatsoever. He's aside from being now dementia ridden, he's shown this his whole life. He is just a stone cold liar. That's what he is.
We get what we deserve, as my mother would say, and the Republicans are no better. They're the
Right.
same way, Joe. They're the same way, and we're about to see it very soon. Very soon, you're going to see the whole Republican Party embrace same-sex marriage, all 50 states.
In
Very
the
soon.
platform. In the platform.
Absolutely. Very soon, you're going to see all 50 states, the Republican Party, as it is in Europe, both sides, they're all the same. And that's why there is no political messiah. Joe Biden will just be ignored. Just like during the Me Too movement, when someone publicly came out and said that he assaulted her. We read something, we covered it on the show. I believe her, and I'm voting for him anyway.
Anyway.
And this is the way. It's tribal. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And this is why the country is finished.
Right.
It's
Right.
finished because a logical and healthy society calls you on that. You know, I used to do that. I used to be like, oh, that's so hypocritical. The New York Times. No one cares because these people don't care.
Right.
They don't care. And this is you're going to find a healthy politician out of this population? Not a chance. Just going to get worse.
Well, not one that can get elected. How about we say it like that?
Well,
there
that's
are many.
That's true. I'll give you that. And
do you remember the story?
That's along the same lines of what I'm talking about.
Well, no.
They're not going to allow it. They won't allow
listen,
it. And even if you are that person, they'll run you out. Because to be honest with you, it's like, Joe, outside of a miracle, it's over. It's going to progressively get worse. And it has. Even in the last 20 years, it's accelerated at a rate I can't even believe. That Santa Claus can't be a man. If you said that to me 20 years ago, I'd be like, dude, what are you talking about?
If you said that 20 years ago, you would not even be able to say that in public. Now, what I mean by public, I mean what we do here at the Frontline with Joe and Joe and the Crusade channel, what we do on social media. You are now, because of technology, everything you say, Joe, you don't have to, like if Malcolm X, who like in the 60s stood on a street corner, okay? And that's how he gained an audience up in Harlem, okay? Malcolm X would be doing YouTube right now. He would be doing Twitter. He would be using the media. You're not going to be able, if you say these things, you're like you said, you're not going to be able to run for political office. Now I happen to just let's bring it to politics real quick. I want to just say hello to Velcro Kitties in the chat room. She says, "Hey peeps, I caught you again." Velcro, we caught you again. How's that? But like, look at Harmeet Dillon. Okay, I like her, Joe. I think she's bold. I think she's got some stones. I think she's not going to be an establishment Republican. But you know what? I'm going to support her. I'll support candidates she gets behind. I'll support. I will vote for Donald Trump if he runs again. But the fact is, it's like being a New York Jets fan, Joe. No matter who you have on the team, you're always going to be a little bit cautious and prepare yourself for losing. Okay. And given this last weekend, anybody who follows football knows the Jets, who had a shot at the playoffs, just blew it for the 12th year in a row. Okay. And I use that as a comparison with Republicans. That's what I do. I think that God made me a Jets fan so that I could prepare myself for the losses we would sustain in politics. I never get my hopes that high on any of them. And again, we're going to go back to it, okay? If you're a Republican, and as Vic DiBattito says, if you can't decide, if you can't tell people no, Santa Claus is a male, you have a problem, okay? You have a major problem. If you're not like Alex Jones, okay, and I don't care what the left says about Alex Jones, and we're not commenting on his law, his court problems, and his trial. That's not what we're talking. We're talking about this video that he did, okay? If you can't side with him to say you're going to go one side or the other, and you think you're going to continue to skirt the middle, all of this is to say, Joe Rossinello, I'm going to hand it back to you. We have a couple minutes left. We all reap what we sow, and that's the bottom line.
Well, that's
and
what it is. It's going to get
America
tougher.
is reaping is reaping at a very, very quick pace right now. You mentioned, Joe, a couple minutes ago, 20 years ago, you couldn't get away with this crap. You think about how rapidly history is moving. You think about that. And it is moving very rapidly, by the way. More so if you even remotely study history, you see that the sexual revolution of the 60s has been ramping up and ramping up and ramping up, and we are now at that level where it's achieving its goals in spades. And if you don't do anything about it, guess what? I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep praying. I'm going to stay close to the sacraments. I'm going to beg Jesus to forgive me so that when the time comes that I get my throat cut, at least I'll go to heaven. Okay? I don't know what's going to happen to you all out there, because if you're just willing to go along with this, then God help you. God help you. Don't talk to me about God bless America and there's going to be some sort of political renewal. There's not. There's not. This country needs a spiritual renewal. And with that, I'm handing it over to Joe.
Let's go to the last clip. We got 5 minutes.
No, we don't. We're not gonna. You're talking about RFK?
Yeah, we don't got.
Yeah,
it.
we're not. We're not gonna have time for it. Our producer said. So we're just gonna stay on this because it's a long clip and we're pretty much coming to the end of the show. Joe, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. But listen, again, things are secular. You know, they go in cycles, and we're just gonna have to deal with it. Eventually, maybe some people will connect the dots. Ultimately, though, Joe, life isn't about thriving. Life is about salvation. God puts us here to purify ourselves, to prepare ourselves for life for eternity. You see, the idea, someone in the chat room said something about Joe Biden. He lost his soul. The problem is people don't think about that. They have no idea. They don't care about sin. If I can do it and get away with it, I'm going to do it. If it gives me an advantage. Most people, a lot of people, that's how they operate. Again, we're reaping what we're sowing from that. There are consequences. And frankly, you see this even taught in the ball field, how parents deal with their kids that play sports. They behave horribly. And then you expect your kid to behave properly in the world. They're learning from you.
Right.
And this is where it is. People don't see the value of taking their kids to church. Catholics don't see the value in it. Well, I got news for you. Your kids are going to face a world that is going to eat them alive, because even the smart adults are getting eaten alive.
Right.
In fact, the simplest people in many ways aren't, because they're not exposed to as much. I got news for you. We are in for the whirlwind, if you ask me, and it's coming faster than you think. And like I said, America, God bless America, and the whole deal and the apple pie, I got news for you. It's getting to get tough. It's going to get really tough in a way that most Americans have never faced ever.
And Ann Coulter is out there saying, as long as we could say rape and incest when it comes to abortion, everything's going to be just fine.
But Ann Coulter went to a phenomenal school and she's worth a few $1,000,000. You're not.
That's right.
And I got news for you. Go outside of any major capital in Europe. See what people look like. They don't go to the dentist. After 60, they don't have teeth in their mouth.
That's right.
Get ready, America. That's coming to Main Street.
Coming soon.
Very soon.
Coming soon to a theater near you. Joe, I want to leave. We only have 30 seconds left. I want to say Arch Lenny says, you've both been speaking for an hour and have not touched on the main roots of societal issues that we're having. That's feminism. Lenny, we would encourage you to go back to our past shows. The root cause of everything we're going through right now is the sexual revolution of the 1960s, which is part of what you're talking about when it comes to feminism. But the larger revolution is the sexual revolution, by the way, starting with contraception, not abortion. Contraception is what's gotten us to this point, including feminism. So, Lenny, we appreciate your comment, but Joe and I are on top of this, and we just want you to know that. So you can go back and watch past shows, and you'll see that's a common theme on our show. Joe Rossinello, we have to go. We thank you all for joining us out there at the Frontline with Joe and Joe on the Crusade channel, always on air and always online at crusadechannel.com, the last live radio station standing. Follow Joe and I on YouTube at the Frontline with Joe and Joe. And please follow us on Twitter now that it's an open platform. At least we hope it is, at with Joe and Joe. at With Joe and Joe. Follow us there. And we thank you all. Again, God bless you all. And remember, until the next time, that our conversation is your conversation. And that conversation is going on everywhere. We'll talk to you soon.